All right, thank you. Appreciate the introduction and the invitation to present today. I am an IEEE staff member, and while you may know IEEE as being an IEEE-HKN member or being a member of the IEEE student branch, you may not be as familiar with IEEE as a global organization. So IEEE is the world's largest technical professionals organization with more than 400,000 members around the world in over 160 countries. But in addition to being a membership organization, IEEE is a publisher of journals, conferences, standards, ebooks, and e-learning. And IEEE is more than just electrical engineering and computer science, although those are our foundations, the things that underpin most of the technologies we're interested in. IEEE really looks at all areas of technology today. And IEEE can really help you stand out. So at this career fair you guys are attending, you're going to be competing against your fellow UTSA students who are getting the same basic education as you. So when you're writing your resume, it's important to think about what helps you stand out from your fellow Roadrunners. And that's something IEEE can help with, so maybe not by tomorrow, but for those of you who are early in your academic career, this can help you start preparing for the future career fairs that you'll be attending as well. But IEEE can really help you build your resume by gaining leadership experience by being an officer in HKN or the IEEE student branch or one of the IEEE society chapters at your university. IEEE has competitions and contests that will allow you to showcase your skills. Awards and scholarships are available, and they really are marks of distinction that you can highlight on your resume. IEEE can help you network by when you attend local events and regional events and international events. IEEE can help you stay technically current through the IEEE Explore Digital Library, which all of you have access to as UTSA students. So there's a lot of resources and things that IEEE can help you with. Before I jump into the actual building of the actual resume, I just wanted to highlight this information from Google. So Google's been studying what they think makes their employees successful since like 2013. And as you look at this list, you'll notice there's nothing technical on it. It's all sort of soft skills and emotional maturity related. So being a good communicator, also being able to listen well, an active listener, somebody who's a critical thinker who can solve problems and make connections across complex ideas, somebody who's confident and is willing to speak up and be heard, even if it means they're going to be wrong in some instances. Having empathy and emotional intelligence so that you're supportive of your colleagues and have curiosity toward their ideas. Those are all things that employers are looking for. They're looking for a lot of these soft skills, particularly communication skills, critical thinking, things like that. So as you think about the things that you have done that have either helped you enhance these skills or show these skills, you want to think about how you can include that on your resume and highlight it. So this sample resume that I'm going to be going through today is available on the Google Drive, so we'll share a link to that in the chat box along with all the other URLs that are posted throughout today's presentation in my slides. But we're going to kick off by looking at all of the various types of sections that you could include in your resume. You're obviously not going to include all of these sections, but this should give you ideas as to what types of information you can include. And you might need to merge some of these into one section on your resume where it makes sense. You can also move the order around. So for example, as you gain more professional experience after you graduate, that professional experience will be more important. So you might want to rename the work experience section to professional experience and move it to the top above your education. If you don't have a lot of work experience right now, but you have a lot of great projects, you would move that up because you want the first thing people see to really resonate with them and to be a strong and impactful on your resume. So we're going to just kind of walk through some of these sections. At the top, obviously, you want to prominently include your name. Remember, there's no need to include like any personal information. You don't need to list your marital status or your nationality. And it's no longer really required to provide your full address. Just including your city and state is sufficient these days. You want to include one phone number that people can easily contact you at. You want to use a professional sounding email. So if you had keg123@gmail in high school, you don't want to put that on your resume, right? And then you can also include a link to either, LinkedIn, a personal website, or a portfolio. Portfolios are a great way for engineers to highlight their projects and really showcase them. I would recommend, though, only including something if it's really strong. If you don't have a really robust LinkedIn profile, don't link to it. And there's a link that we're going to share with you that talks about some LinkedIn best practices. So if you want to get it up to speed, you can follow those best practices and that will help you. Also, if you've never really seen an engineering portfolio, aren't quite sure what that looks like, there's several different YouTube videos out there, but this is one that I particularly like that you might find interesting on how to create your engineering profile. So the next part will be education for most of you guys. Since you're in school, it's important to make sure they can tell where you are. So you want to include your university, your specific degree program, and expected graduation date. You want to list out courses that you've completed that are most relevant to the type of job or job role that you're seeking. So you don't want to have to list every single course you've taken. You want to keep this to a couple of lines, right? Succinct and easy for people to read and to see the technical courses, engineering related courses that you've taken. And you can include your GPA if you want, but it's optional. You don't have to. If we have anyone who is an incoming freshman, you can include your high school information on your resume, right? It's September of your first year in college. You haven't done anything hardly yet, right? So you can include that. But the further away you get from high school, the more you need to remove all of that information, right? So by the time you're a junior, senior, you should be really focused on just the things you've accomplished during your time at the university. Unless it was an extremely prestigious thing. If you won some really amazing national award, by all means, leave that on your resume, to highlight. You want to also highlight your skills on your resumes, and there's no rule which skills you include, how you display them, things like that. So I'm going to actually show you 3 different examples here. So here's one where it's been broken down by different types of things. It also includes that they're fluent in Spanish and that they have interests in rock climbing, reading, and robotics, along with the more technical things. And here's somebody who chose to just focus on their technical skills. And so they chose to list their languages, programming languages, and then the certifications and technologies that they're skilled in all together here. Now, some people like to pull out the most important skills for the type of role that they're seeking or that are their most top skills, right? Their most impressive skills, and put it all the way at the top of their resume, almost like a headline. And so this is kind of what it can look like here. So you can see this person was focusing on FPGA systems, Verilog, team leadership. They were a chair of their IEEE student branch and many other leadership positions. So leadership was a big thing for them. And then RTL design. So that just shows you can sort of do this different ways. But sit down and think about all the skills that you have. So you can put all the soft skills in the skills section too. Don't forget those. If you're a great communicator, if you have great written skills, if you're a great presenter, if you're a critical thinker, you can really put those in there. And then you need to have something sort of down in your resume that you can highlight to show that skill. Now you can merge things like work experience and volunteer work, or if you have very little work experience, like maybe you only have one thing, you could even do just experience and projects together so that it's not such a small section. So you can think about ways things would fit together that tell a nice story, that aren't like just sticking two oddball things together. Now, one of the most common mistakes people make when they write a resume is that they include generic job descriptions. So they'll just have their job duties listed, and they're not unique to your actual accomplishments. And so you want to improve your resume and make more effective job descriptions. And you can do this by adding metrics and achievements. So the goal is to highlight what you've achieved so a reader can see what you've accomplished and envision possibly what you could accomplish in the role you're applying for. Now, if you have a lot of internships and other jobs that give you technical expertise, you absolutely want to highlight that all of those here. And you might necessarily not put any of the non-technical if you have a lot to include. If you don't have very much, like in this particular example, somebody has two things. One is an internship that's very core to what they want to do, but the second is being a sales associate at Target. And you can see here, we've found actual metrics and numbers to booster what a sales associate is, right? Now, let's say this person only had their Target experience. They have no internships, no technical or professional work experience. In that case, I would not put this section next after education. I would move projects above it or something, or if you have a great awards or competitions that you've competed in, I would move whatever is the most thing that the thing that you're most proud of, the thing that will be most impressive to people, towards the top there. So you guys are going to want to have education and skills, and then something really important that resonates with the recruiters right up there at the top. With projects, you can combine that with competitions if you want to, right? Because a competition is kind of a project, if you built a robot to compete. Also, if you don't limit yourself to just things that you did as part of coursework or as part of a team for competition or through the IEEE student branch or whatever. If you just did something personal, you can include that. I mean, if you built a robot, include that. Anything you've done technical, whether it's by yourself on your own time or through a group or as part of a class, that can be included here as part of your projects. When you're doing your projects, this is also a good rule of thumb for your work experience too. You want to start with an action verb. You want to say what you did and then the outcome, right? So you can see an example here is that built a random forest model in SAS. So built is your action verb. What they did, they built a model, and then why or the outcome. It improved projection accuracy by combining the sources into one projection that outperformed the mean absolute error of the next best projection by 18%, right? So it's really quantifiable, very specific, that outcomes of that project. Now, if you've won any prestigious awards, I think I mentioned that before, I'd move that to the top, but you can include any types of awards. You can also put competitions as another place to put them is here. You can do awards and competitions. If you have any leadership experience, highlight that. It's great to highlight that leadership experience. It looks really good on resumes. Michael here today is the, current president of the IEEE-HKN chapter, and he's developing a lot of soft skills that he may not even realize it, right? He's getting practice presenting in front of people. He's getting practice doing sort of like project management, organizing events, the budget, leading a team, the other officers. And so those are all soft skills that you can highlight with any leadership experience you've had with any student organizations or volunteer work that you've done, anything like that that would fit in there. And if you are a member of any professional associations that you haven't been leaders on, that's good to include too. Especially if your resume is not fully filled out, right? You want your resume to be 1 to 2 pages. So professional associations, awards, things like that are good things that you can add to help fill in any gaps that you might have. But don't just throw things in if you've got a really good, robust, long resume. That's okay. You don't need to include every single thing you've done since you started college. Certificates, continuing education, anything that you've taken the time to further educate yourself outside of classwork shows motivation and ambition, which are important traits to highlight on your resume. You're in a field that you will have to continue learning throughout your career. Like when you graduate, you're not done learning. You're going to always have to stay up to date on the latest technologies. And so because of that, companies really look for self-directed learners, people who proactively go out of their way to find resources to help improve their knowledge on relevant topics. So this can be a nice thing to include on your resume. Again, it highlights that you have motivation, ambition, and you're a self-directed learner. In addition to professional experiences, you can consider adding volunteerism or community involvement to your resume. Being involved in your community can show that you can manage multiple priorities and are willing to go above and beyond what is expected of you in the workplace. Most people are involved with organizations that they are passionate about and that align with their skill sets. So by outlining these experiences, a future employee will be able to see that you are someone that is striving to make a difference out there. And that can be impressive in and of itself. All right, so there's the URL. I don't know if it should be in the chat, or if it's not, Michael will add it. But I wanted to pause here and see if we had any questions on actually, the resume itself, developing the resume, or anything else really at this point. And feel free to type them into the chat box or unmute yourself and ask the question if you have it. Okay, I'm not seeing anything in the chat box. And I don't hear anyone speaking, so we'll move on here.
I think we have one person.
Lewis has his hand up.
Yes, sorry, I didn't see any hands. I don't see that for some reason. Okay.
No, it's all right. I was wondering because I'm a freshman, and so like it's only been like a month-ish into the semester. So should I include my GPA even though it doesn't have much like for it? If that makes sense.
Yeah, no, do you even have a GPA at this point?
I mean, I guess not officially, but
Oh, yeah,
like
I think I
I guess
wouldn't include it if I was you. That might confuse people.
okay.
Yeah, because they might think you are further along than you are, or that you're, I don't know. But I think I would not include it. Like I said, you're like just a few weeks into college at this point, right? So you are okay with including some stuff from high school, obviously, because you just came out, and that's very recent and can be relevant depending on what you've done, if you were in a robotics club or whatever, right?
Mhm.
And are you going to the career fair?
Yes, ma'am, I am.
Okay, that's a great. So I always tell students to start going to the career fair as early as possible in their educational career, because it might not be as important for you to find a job right now. So you might not be as stressed. And so you'll be able to go into it a little
Mhm.
bit calmer than sometimes people who are desperate to find a job. They're graduating,
Yeah.
and it'll give you the experience of participating in the career fair. And then when it comes time where you really need that job, and this is like do or die time for you, you'll have gone through this experience multiple times. You're going to be perfectly comfortable with it, and you're going to be able to breeze through it. Nothing like going to your first one your senior year. If you are, it's okay. It's okay. But if you're anyone on the call or listening to the recording, it's a senior. But
Mhm.
the earlier you can start participating in these kinds of things and get confident talking to these recruiters and understanding the types of information they're going to ask of you, you'll do better, over time.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am.
You're welcome.
Just add on to that a little bit. I started out here as a freshman at UTSA. I highly recommend going, even though you're probably not going to get too much interest since you're a freshman, but it'll help you get comfortable with where things are, what the recruiters are expecting. And if nothing, you get free swag.
Right, right. Yeah, no, and
Okay, will do.
it's just a really good experience, yeah, to have under your belt. And because the first time you walk into anything like that, or at least for me, you walk into a space and it's kind of overwhelming. You don't even know where to start. So, if you've done it, and a lot of times I'm assuming, Michael, they have them in the exact same space every year, right? The same place.
Yeah,
So,
it's pretty much the same in the
yeah.
HEB ballrooms. Yeah,
Yeah, right. So you're going to get comfortable with the location, the layout. Yeah, it'll make life a lot simpler for you.
it
Yeah,
is a
thank you,
little
ma'am.
round, so I would recommend looking at the map online. I'll try to get the resource link for that, but plan out who you want to get to because the hall is usually very, very full.
Yeah. Yeah. So my next little section is a few tips on the career fair. So just anyone else have any other questions? Okay. All right, so since you guys were preparing for the career fair, I did include some of my tips and things. So just like Michael just said, there's going to be a lot of companies there. You should ahead of time do some homework, right? You should maybe, especially the further along you are into this, you should map out your top 5, the ones you definitely don't want to miss, and go to those first 5 first. But just because you see a company name and you've heard it and it's cool and whatever, it doesn't necessarily mean it's the right fit for you. So take a step back and think, instead of, oh, cool name or cool company, are they a good fit for you? And just as importantly, is the skills and experience that you've gained up to this point a good fit for them? You know, do you have enough to differentiate yourself in that specific field or that industry or that technology to generate interest, right? So you have to have some value for them. Your past projects, skills, things like that have to be relevant to them. And that's one of the things you need to get most comfortable with when it comes to talking to recruiters and interviewing, is being able to pivot and take what you've done and position it for the specific role that they are looking for, right? They're trying to hire a specific role. They're looking for somebody who fits, maybe a certain type of person who's gotten a certain type of experience. So you have to be able to take your experience and show them how it fits into what they're looking for. So as I said, you want to do some homework. I mentioned earlier, don't include your LinkedIn if it's not nice and robust. But if you are going to have your LinkedIn on your resume, make sure it's up to date. Make sure you have a nice professional headshot. Make sure you have got a decent set of people that you're following and that are following you, and that you've been interacting online, and you've filled out as many of the different sections they offer as possible. You want to bring paper copies of your resume. This is important. That you think about, again, when you're looking at those top 5, you might think you need to tweak your resume slightly for each of them. There might be something you want to highlight that's more important. You want to move up to the top based on a specific company or a specific industry or a specific type of role that you want. Prepare your elevator speech, which we're going to talk about in just a moment. You're going to have questions for your prospective employers. I'm going to give you some examples of those. You're going to research each company that interests you. We'll talk about that as well. But main thing is have a plan, but be flexible and prepared for surprises. Okay, so you got those top 5 that you really want to get to. If something happens, don't let it throw you completely. If you have a bad interaction with the first recruiter you talk to, don't let it throw you or knock you off or ruin the rest of your time. Just put it in the rearview mirror and keep going forward. Everyone has a bad interaction sometimes or a bad experience. All right, so an elevator pitch it actually comes from the sales world. So the idea was years ago, if you got stuck in or if you walked into an elevator and your top prospect was standing in there and all you have is a time, going to the whatever floor, what would you say to them? What's that perfect pitch that's 30 to 60 seconds that you could engage them, that they would be intrigued enough to say, yeah, give me your card, let's touch base or something. So for you guys, it's important to make sure you include your name, your major, your graduation date, your area of interest, and then relevant experiences. Those are the things you're going to take. But when you introduce yourself, you want to say something like, hi, my name is Jane Doe, and I'm a 4th-year electrical engineering student who will be graduating in May. I'm looking for full-time work in XYZ, whatever it is. And then at my internship, or I've done a project related to this XYZ, right? But when you say those things up front, if all they're there for is for interns or vice versa, they're not hiring interns right now, they're looking for full-time employees, you're not wasting each other's time, right? You've told them right away who you are, what year you are. If they're only looking for biomedical engineers, they can say, sorry, we're just looking for biomedical right now, and you can move on. So think about things that you've done, like your internships, your projects, your leadership roles. What are your strengths, interests, and recent accomplishments? And, how can you distill that into a couple of sentences, which is hard to do, but try to think about what you think would be of most interest to people. And it's nice to end that little shake their hand, hi, I'm this, give my elevator speech with a question. So the question could be something as simple as, would you like a copy of my resume? Or are you looking for, or do you have any open positions in this area? Something like that to start the conversation rolling. But whatever you do, this example is the bad example. What does your company do? Don't do something like that. You want to come across as somebody who's done their homework, who's educated, and who is seriously looking for a job. And so they're, focused in on specific companies, specific industry, etc. And there's a really great document from Texas Tech, their engineering career development. And I'm sure you guys probably have a great one too somewhere, but I really like, they have 4 different elevator pitch examples. So you can kind of get examples from like 1st year to 4th year from different majors, all engineering related though. So that's a good thing to take a look at. And then they also have a really nice bulleted list of things that you can sort of jot down and then use that to create your elevator pitch out of answer the questions they have. So you want to prepare a list of questions, right? This is both for the career fair, but even more important for an interview. When they say, do you have any questions for me? You don't want to come back with a no. So always have like 2 or 3 in your back pocket that you can just ask that are general enough that you could ask any company. But remember, the best questions to ask are about specific things that came up in the interview, because it shows you were listening, it shows you're interested, and it shows that, you're wanting to engage and move this relationship further. You want to go to the next step. And the last thing you want to ask any interviewer is for the next step. So that's the big ask, right? Is what is the key to successfully moving on to the next step in the hiring process? What's the next step? You know, what can we do next? So you don't want, if you're really interested in something and this shows your interest, this is a great way to make sure that you've told them that, they know that, and you know what the next steps are. You're going to have a specific, hopefully, action item or something to follow up with them about after you walk away from the table. So one of the ways you can obviously do some research on the companies is to look at their websites, right? You want to look at their websites, see what kind of projects they're working on, see if they have any nice blogs on there. So what kind of technologies are they really focused on, things like that. But you can also do what's called an author affiliation search on the IEEE Explore digital library. So again, you guys all have access through UTSA. And if you go to the advanced search page and use the drop-down menu to search in the author affiliation, you can search by any organizational name. So I'm doing a really easy one, Google. It then pulls up all of the results by authors who identified Google as their affiliation when they wrote that paper. I like to sort it newest first so I can see the most recently published content. It gives me an idea what conferences they're presenting at, which means those are the same conferences they're attending, things like that. I can also look at the author facet along the left-hand side to see who some of their top researchers are, or I can look at the publication topics facet to get a good understanding of what technologies, the top technologies they're publishing on, which means these are really important technologies for them. And a quick tip that you may not know is in the full text of papers on IEEE Explore, sometimes you can find the author's email addresses. So you can look first right under the headline, and then if it's not there, take a look at the footer of the first page on the left-hand side. And a lot of times there will be email addresses there. And so if you're looking for email addresses for a wide variety of reasons, maybe you're industry relations for the student branch and you're looking for people to come and speak, right? You might be able to identify people who are in San Antonio from specific organizations, and you can, explain, I found your email address in a paper that you published on IEEE Explore. We're looking for, speakers to engage our student branch with, or maybe your ask is, can you connect me with the recruiters from your organization, and so on. So that's a one way to find some contact information, is to take a look at that full text papers. And just a quick reminder, if you aren't aware of this, to get to the full text, you have to be authenticated through UTSA. So when you're on campus, it seamlessly authenticates you because you're on the Wi-Fi or UTSA's IP addresses. But if you're off campus, it won't know you're from UTSA unless you start in the UTSA library website, go to databases, find IEEE Explore, and then when you click on it, it's going to first prompt you to log in. It should be a recognizable single sign-on screen that you've used before, and then you'll be taken to Explore, and it'll say at the top of the page, access provided by University of Texas at San Antonio. So to kind of summarize some of the things for the career fair, dress professionally. So Michael, I'm going to pick on you. Do you wear a suit? What do you wear, since you've done this several times?
Yeah, usually a suit, a dress shirt and pants, belt. During the summer, you might probably want to leave off the suit jacket, but during the fall, if it gets cool enough, but it's Texas, it probably won't.
Yeah, tomorrow probably will be warm. Yeah. All right. You don't want to monopolize the conversation, so don't just keep, be sure to pause to give them a chance to break in and ask a follow-up question or a clarifying question. Also ask questions of them. And when you ask these questions and when they're speaking, be an active listener and show interest. Companies want to hire people who are enthusiastic about the job or their company or that industry or technology, whatever that is. And so you need to show that in some way. And not everyone has like a cheerleader personality. Oh, well, I'm so excited. So you can just verbally say that I'm very enthusiastic about XYZ. I'd very much like to work for your company. And then, as we mentioned before, the goal is to leave with a plan for the next steps. So be sure when you end and you're asking them for those next steps, shake their hand, say, thank you for your time. I really appreciate you speaking with me today. What are the next steps in the interview process? And then hopefully you're getting contact information. I'm not really sure if the career fair is definitely at obviously an interview, you're going to know how to contact them, but you want to send them a thank you email and follow up with them, recap the conversation, and again, either clarify the next steps or confirm the next steps. All right, so that's my spiel. I'll open it up for questions. And I know you guys have a career fair tomorrow, so it's probably too late for this, but in the future or for the next one, you can always email me a copy of your resume. I'd be happy to review it and give you any pointers or tips, or just make sure there's no typos in it, things like that.